The fact that The Walking Dead has aired over 100 episodes and is currently in the middle of its 8th season feels like a miracle when considering the show's tumultuous creative journey. When creator Frank Darabont and executive producer Gail Ann Hurd came together to adapt the popular comic series by Robert Kirkman, a serialized graphic horror television show had never before existed. A show with practically zero star appeal about a group of people surviving the zombie apocalypse seemed doomed to fail. But when it premiered on October 31st, 2010, it was received with both critical praise and commercial success, as over 5 million people tuned in to watch. AMC had a bona fide hit on their hands, but there were creative differences behind the scenes. Frank Darabont fired the entire writing staff after season 1, and was eventually fired himself as showrunner during production of season 2, which sparked a lawsuit. Glenn Mazzara stepped in as showrunner for season 2 and 3, but eventually left the show as well due to creative differences. And then Scott Gimple became showrunner until halfway through season 8, when Angela Kang stepped into the role due to a fan outcry for much needed change. But we'll get back to that later. Even with a revolving door of creativity behind the scenes, The Walking Dead still managed to cement its legacy as one of the most popular television shows of all time, becoming the most watched scripted television show for many years, averaging over 13 million viewers during its peak run from seasons 4 through 6. And its popularity spawned 2 shows, a prequel, Fear the Walking Dead, and Talking Dead, which serves as a platform for fans to discuss the show along with cast and crew members and celebrity guests. However, The Walking Dead has been on a gradual decline in both reviews and ratings over the last couple years, with the recent episode, The Lost and the Plunderers, netting a rating of 6.82 million viewers. A rating every other show would love to receive, but it's the lowest rating for The Walking Dead since season 2. So what's causing this overall recent decline in the show that was once at the pinnacle of primetime television? I'm going to discuss 2 separate story issues and how both collided on October 23rd, 2016, with the episode The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, the day I believe The Walking Dead died.
Welcome to a brand new beginning, you sorry shits.
First, repetitive storylines. Ever since George A. Romero launched the current incarnation of what we now know as zombies with his 1968 film Night of the Living Dead, there has been a formulaic story structure across the zombie genre that generally takes some form of the following. Survivors seek sanctuary, engage enemy. Let's break down the beats of this formula by comparing 4 shining examples of the zombie genre: Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later, and Shaun of the Dead. And yes, I'm well aware that the monsters in 28 Days Later are humans infected with a rage virus, not reanimated corpses, but the movie obviously checks the same boxes of the zombie genre. Survivors seek shelter, a farmhouse, a mall, a mansion, a pub. Engage enemy. In all of these instances, the survivors must protect their sanctuary from an onslaught of zombies. But this doesn't mean that the zombies are the only opponents. Sometimes the enemy can be human. In Dawn of the Dead, the survivors fight a biker gang, and in 28 Days Later, the survivors fight corrupt soldiers. It's a proven structure that has worked throughout the genre with only slight variations, and we've seen the same structure work effectively in The Walking Dead. But after 8 seasons, the same story structure is finally growing tired. Survivors seek shelter, engage enemy. 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 Not only does this cyclical structure feel like the show is retreading on tired ground, but it also halts the story from moving forward and building. When the characters have to continually stop and start over again, it keeps the story from progressing to new, interesting places. Along the way, we've been introduced to new characters and locations, but they're all just slight variations of the same old story beats. Negan is basically a slight variation of the Governor. The scavengers at the junkyard have switched back and forth from enemies to allies so many times that the twist means nothing at this point. And the characters have been so tortured and relentlessly abused over the years that it all feels monotonous and weightless. For instance, throughout the run of the show, Carl has been shot in the stomach, in the head, losing an eye, and was recently bit by a walker, forcing him to finally take his own life by shooting himself. At this point, it seems like the creators are killing off major characters as a stunt for better ratings, instead of serving the larger story. Deaths should affect our characters and launch them into new territories and plotlines, and should also reinforce the larger themes of the show. But now, major character deaths are treated almost flippantly, and no major character's death has been more mishandled than Glenn's. Over the span of 15 episodes, Glenn appears to die, is brought back, only to die again in the now infamous episode The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. But why? How did his death service the story? It only reinforced the already existing tension. It made Glenn's death, resurrection, and actual death not only repetitive, but cruel, unnecessary, and pointless. It was another stunt by the creators to stir controversy, and speaks to a larger issue that the creators have with handling story. Which leads me to my next point. Second, fractured storylines. The Walking Dead has had the challenge of juggling a large cast, and with that comes multiple narratives and story threads that the writers must expertly weave and work together. The A story is the primary focus, meaning that it will usually be about the lead and have the most amount of screen time. The B story is generally a parallel storyline, including secondary characters. The C story, and maybe D, E, and so forth, deal with ongoing storylines that will pay off in the long term. For the first 2 seasons, the cast was basically together the entire time, sharing the same A storyline, and attacking the same one issue from different angles, or sometimes even the same angle. There wasn't always an engaging B or C storyline, and so the show would sometimes feel like it was dragging. Seriously, season 2 on the farm felt like it went on forever, because every episode was basically the same story with very little happening. When season 3 began, it immediately felt more engaging because the cast was split into 2 sections, creating the prison storyline and the Woodbury storyline. When our heroes were forced to evacuate the prison halfway through season 4, the cast was split even more. But with all the characters on the same mission to Terminus, the storyline still felt clear and concise. But now, with the introduction of Negan, the entire story feels too fractured. There's now what seems like dozens of characters spread across multiple locations: Alexandria, the Hilltop, the Kingdom, the Sanctuary, the Junkyard, and Oceanside. There are 2 ways to approach this type of large-scale storytelling: one at a time, or all at once. For example, Game of Thrones has a large cast of characters spread across multiple locations, but on an average episode, we usually touch base with every character, watching their storyline slowly progress like a game of chess. It helps the audience remember who is where and what they're doing. In a current episode of The Walking Dead, we only focus on a few characters for the entire episode. That means there are usually long stretches of gaps where the audience isn't seeing certain characters. This fractured method of storytelling stifles progress and momentum, dragging everything down to a dull pace. The entire story arc of the Governor was introduced and concluded in 1.5 seasons. In comparison, Negan has already been around for more than 1.5 seasons, and it still feels like nothing has really happened. It's like the creators know the endpoint they want to reach eventually, based on the comic source material, but they're stretching everything so thin and spinning wheels as they wait to get there. Since Negan's introduction, the creators have been confusing action for story. There's been plenty of battles, character deaths, and zombie kills, but without clear motivations and context, those events carry 0 weight. For instance, back with the prison and the Governor, the prison was their home. They were building a life there and doing whatever they could to protect it. We followed the Governor in Woodbury, and were even shown glimpses into his past with his now deceased wife and daughter. Although we never agreed with the Governor's reasoning, the audience could still understand the motivations for his actions. But with Negan, his motivations are vague, and besides a few first-hand comments, his history has mostly remained a mystery. The entire character comes off more like a one-note cartoon. And side characters battling side characters for some unknown location means nothing to me if they don't come with tangible weight or inherent stakes. There's still hope for the future of The Walking Dead. Recent outcry by the fans, including an online petition that amassed over 85,000 signatures, has sparked a much-needed change in showrunner. Scott Gimple has moved on to another position, with veteran staff writer Angela Kang stepping into the role. And if the show continues clinging to its comic book source material, then the story should shift in an exciting direction, with lots more possibilities and fresh dynamics. But until then, I'm afraid we're stuck with repetitive, fractured storylines, both of which collided to appalling results on October 23, 2016, the day The Walking Dead died. Entertain the Elk puts out 2 new videos a month, so if you haven't already, please subscribe below. That way you don't miss out on any new content whenever it drops. I want to thank all of you who reached out asking for this video. I had a lot of responses asking for this specifically, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it, share it with a friend, and leave me a comment below. Tell me when you think The Walking Dead died, or if you think it's still alive today. If there's any other topics you'd like me to explore to see the day that it died, feel free to reach out. I love reading your comments, and we'll try and get to it as soon as I can. If you'd like to support this channel financially so I can make more videos like this, please go to my Patreon page. I'll leave a link below. Patrons get rewards like t-shirts, get the videos early, get exclusive audio commentaries, and things like that. So it's the best way to help me and to keep making these videos. So if you're able to do that, please go check it out. Also, if you're in the Los Angeles area, I'm going to be down at WonderCon all weekend in Anaheim. I have a table in Artist Alley where I'll be selling comic books that my brother and I have made. I would love to meet you in person, so come by, come say hey, and come check out some comics. The table is under Bogus Publishing. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Again, I say it time and time again, but this channel wouldn't exist without you. So thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you next time.